notation of positives and negatives to give like the basics, then they should be ready for this part where it shouldn't take us long to get through it.
Okay, yeah. So
since I
doing
didn't
a
have this with
combination.
me. Yeah, since I didn't have it with me to plan over the weekend.
Yes. Yay! Okay, math department meeting. So we'll add this desired outcome of increasing our math results by 20% on the SBAC, and then the other two will stay the same.
Okay.
So I don't remember what the announcement was supposed to be for homogeneous grouping, so I'll have to get back to you on that. I just want to do a recap of what we did last week, which was introducing the lesson topic with a engage or explore problem without the scaffolding. So you've already done this, didn't you?
This
problem?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what is missing from here since you've already done this? Like if you were to present this problem as an anticipatory set for the students, what would the instructions need to be for the students?
Well, I'll admit from my experience, I had a real world video first.
Oh, okay.
That compared, what was it? Pollen. Measuring pollen, scientific notation with pollen, and it kind of walked them through that. It was like a minute and 50 seconds, but it gave them an idea of how scientific notation works. So then after that, by the time I got to this engage, explore problem, they had an idea of how to actually write the weight in scientific notation.
Oh, okay.
So
cool. So
it didn't really take me a lot to
give them the
after the video.
Process. Yeah.
So
when you introduced it to them, was it, in your observation, was it easy for them to identify the pattern of, rewriting let's say 250,000 as a 2.5 times a 10 to some power, a power of 10?
It was easy for them to understand the concept of why we're writing it in scientific notation.
Okay, good.
But as far as actually just going straight to 2.5 times 10 to the 5th power, no.
Okay.
So that part, it did take like some scaffolding to at least show an example. And then from there, they were able to take off and run. Cool. They did understand right away to at least have the first factor to write it to where it's between 1 and 10.
Yes.
And times the power of 10. They got a chance to at least test it out. 2.5 times 10 to the, I think it's 5th power. Yeah. What does that equal? And once they saw that it brings them right back to the original 250,000, then they made that connection.
Okay, cool.
So,
what did you see as one of the most challenging parts of introducing this lesson?
Actually identifying, okay, so a lot of the students figure that if you count the zeros, that tells you your exponent. And not so much. Sometimes you have to go one extra place to use that as a placeholder for an additional 0. Yes. So once they saw that, then they made the connection. But I still have some that still make that mistake of kind of counting the zeros and not understanding that you have to go one more place.
Yep. Do you have any ideas on how to address that misconception? Because that is one of the common misconceptions. And it's because I think that in previous grades, it was easy to just rely on counting zeros. But now we're adding, an extra, not a place value, but an extra digit greater than 0, right?
Yeah, actually, I was trying to think of another way that they would make that connection a lot sooner and easier, but I have not. So far, pretty much from my modeling, their practicing, just back and forth has helped.
Okay. So one of the standards in one of the elementary standards is going through and identifying numbers in base 10. So maybe we're going back to that, I think it's like a 5th grade standard, and doing a quick review on where the digits, what place value each digit has. So we have 0, so for 250,000.
Okay.
Going, underlining each digit. So how much do we have in the ones place? 0. How many do we have in the tens? Tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and then making that connection of the base 10 to the exponent is one way to do it, and it still stays, and you're not giving them a shortcut per se, but so it's grounded in the actual standard. It's a 5th grade standard.
Okay.
And saying, this is something that you may or may not remember, but remember, each digit has a name. It's a hundreds, it's a 10, 100, ones, tens, 100,000, 10,000, 100,000s.
And we went through that. Started with the ones place, and then each place value from there is 10 times that, which they understood that. But I guess if we could go back and review, if I could go back and review the base 10 once again, but they did understand as far as where the tens, hundreds, thousands comes from. Yeah. By understanding 10 times that.
Yeah, so I think that just needs to be more explicit.
Okay.
Is, 10 to the 0 is actually ones. 10 to the first is actually 10. And actually showing them that connection.
Okay.
So that whenever they see a number that's in the 100,000s, they'll know it'll be 10 to the 5th.
Okay.
Because 10 to the 5th is 100,000s.
Got it.
Would you say, did you do an exit ticket for this particular one?
What was it? I did. Let me look back and see. I did do one, but I had to see. And I pulled it out of the book, as a matter of fact. Actually, I think I just used, I have my printout. I actually have it. I actually have my exit ticket. Cool. But I did use the actual number on your turn. Oh, so okay. I think I gave them this number, and I had them write this one in scientific notation, as a matter of fact. 5 trillion? Yeah. Yeah.
570 trillion?
Right. Okay. And then I think I wrote the one above that in scientific notation to see if they could write it in standard notation. Because I wanted them to at least understand the difference between standard and scientific, because I know the verbiage, the vocabulary is always there. Yeah. Such as write in standard notation or identify scientific notation. So I pulled it straight from here.
So how many of your benchmark students and how many of your rising students would you say mastered this particular standard?
The benchmark, I would say about 98% of them mastered it, benchmark.
Cool.
But the rising, 50-50 probably. 50-50. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see how that goes. Okay. If we just do a quick reteach, and it could be like a do now question as an entry point into, let's make the connection between the exponent and the actual standard notation.
Okay.
Cool. So then what chapter will you be on next week? Or are you still doing chapter 2?
Yeah, let me see how much in general, how much more operations. With my benchmark, we will be ready for the next chapter next week.
Next week.
My risers.
Probably need an extra day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a range, and I've been prepping everybody that it's not like ELA. We can't do 5 days. Yeah. Because we're dealing with a lot of psychological issues too about math. Right. Okay. So then, what would you say? So flipping through chapter 2, what would you say is going to be one of the more challenging lessons?
Just within chapter 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we could just jump to chapter 3 if you feel like chapter 2 is
Chapter 2. Oh,
fun.
I think I think with chapter 2, the operations probably will be challenging for my risers because it's going to be a little more consuming.
Okay.
In organizing, kind of breaking each part down. As far as my risers, see, they catch on pretty fast, and a lot of them seem like they're kind of familiar with scientific notation. Well, I think that's kind of what's getting us over the hump with my benchmark group, because they have a little background. It seems like most of them have a little background anyway. But my risers, I'm a little nervous for them.
What makes you nervous?
Because I found when we were doing integer exponents, when we had to simplify or solve, they were great with the integer patterns. They were great with the rules as far as identifying if the same bases, adding the exponents. But when you put it together, that's where it was a challenge for them. So with scientific notation, they're great with identifying if numbers written in scientific or standard. They're good with that. They're fine with as far as moving the decimal, understanding that moving the decimal one extra place, all of that. But I think when it comes to the operations, the only reason why I'm kind of 50-50 on that is only because of the operations with integer exponents, how time consuming that was.
Okay.
Versus my benchmark group, as we were solving, a lot of those kids were able to see that as I was simplifying, if they saw like 2 to the 5th times 2 to the negative 4th, per se, some of them saw, instead of converting 2 to the negative 4th to the inverse or reciprocal, they knew automatically that this would be 2 to the 1st power. So they knew how to eliminate certain steps because they could catch certain things. But that's in my benchmark. Yeah, there was a few kids who were like, oh, you could just, so they were on it right away. Whereas my risers, they don't see it.
Oh, it's backwards.
Yeah, and that's just, there was a problem. It was actually a good problem that we worked on, and I pulled it out of here. Let me see if I can pull it up again. So I know for sure my risers, we're probably going to filter in to Monday with chapter 2.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday.
Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah. And that's because of the operations.
Okay.
And then I think from there, are we going straight into chapter 3?
Yeah, we could. Understand why it's backwards.
We should be okay starting out. From what I remember, the kids were pretty good at reading tables and graphs for proportional relationships.
I don't understand why it's backwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to find, there's an actual problem in here. I'd have to probably pull up my activities. Which one was it? I want to say it's number 5 from our lesson quiz. Make sure. Oops. Okay, yeah, it is this problem. Oh, sorry. Okay, so, sorry. Number 5 on the lesson quiz.
Simplify each expression.
So my strategic group, no, my benchmark, I'm sorry. My benchmark group, once they simplified to the first step, they caught it right away. Like a lot of them saw automatically, okay, 2 to the 0 power, that's 1. This is 2 to the first. So they caught it right away without steady simplifying. Now, my risers, they still had to go through with converting 2 to the negative 4th power and doing it, you know, step by step by step.
Oh, really?
Down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they didn't catch that right away. What most of them caught, though, was 2 to the 0 power, which was our 1, but they're still solving the 2 to the 5th times 2 to the negative 4th. They didn't automatically catch right away.
Okay.
That's why I know, like, scientific notation operation, that's going to take an extra day. That's probably going to be 2 days on that, maybe.
So what are they doing? So let's start with that first question at the top.
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? What are you seeing the students do most commonly?
Well, they're good with, as far as like the PEMDAS.
Yeah.
8 minus 6, 2 to the 5th, blah.
Yeah.
But when they automatically see that negative exponent, that's where the ones, my risers, they're actually finding the reciprocal. They're actually breaking it down.
Okay.
1 over 2 to the 4th, which is, and they're actually 2 times 2 is 4 times 2. Okay, and then they get 1 to the 16th. So after they do all that math, now they're at 1 to the 16th plus 1, and then they're trying to figure out, okay, 2 to the 5th, you know.
So they're actually calculating.
Yeah. Instead of catching automatically the rule right there. And even when I kind of just post a question just to check to see where they are, when I post certain questions, I could put 7 to the 5th power over 7 to the 3rd. And I'll say, does anyone have an idea the rule? No one says, oh, division or quotient rule. They're like, multiplication? They're just guessing now. Power of a power?
Okay.
So I'm like, oh,
just cut that out.
So then it's to the point where I'm like, okay, open your notes.
Yeah.
And just identify it. If you can't, you know, think of it offhand, then they'll say, oh, quotient rule. All right, which means we need to subtract the integers. So we're still going step by step.
Okay. Okay. Which is not bad. I would suggest there's actually a step before they identify the rule that they could do as a kind of like their baby step, right? So having them rewrite the problem in expanded form, right?
Okay.
So then we would have, taking this one, that would be 2 times 2 times 2. And it's not efficient. However, when they see the relationship, they'll want to be more efficient. And we already know, or they already know. Yay, my color pens are coming in handy. That is, so we have a line, because there's a times 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So if they rewrite it that way, kind of like with the what you did with the counters, they could go ahead and start crossing off. Wait, is that right?
You've got the 5 and then 1. Yeah.
5. Yeah. So the answer is positive 1. Sorry, I wrote it wrong. Yeah. So then it's just 2 to the first power.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's the step that they're missing, because it sounds like they want to jump straight to the rule, but they're not there yet. So showing them an expanded form first so that they can develop that rule on their own. So if I have a 2 to the negative 4th, I know I write it as a 1 over whatever the exponent is, or the base is. and then I multiply it, and I could just cross it out.
Right. Now with our intro, starting it, we did do the expanded form.
Yeah, but I would have them keep.
But I guess we'd have to keep going back.
Yeah.
Going back.
And then, so the next step would be, well, do you want to spend all your time doing this?
Right.
No. Their answer should be no. So then you could introduce the quotient rule and rewrite it as 2 to the 5th minus 4th. So they're doing the operation up here in the exponents, which would still get them 2 to the 1st.
Okay.
And that way they could actually, and this is a really great complement to the, well, wait, is that the same grade level? To the activity you did with the the integers.
With the integers?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then they're seeing, well, this is why integers are important. It actually helps you understand integers are important because it helps simplify your exponents and gives you certain rules.
Okay.
So then the same thing here, like the first step for them, if they're like totally grasping at straws, they don't know what to do next, rewrite the problem. So so the question would be, how can you rewrite the problem? In expanded form. It's all backwards. I'll figure that one out later. And then give them a couple of minutes to actually work with a partner to figure it out. And chances are at least one of them will say, well, we know this is parentheses. You got to do the parentheses first. So you know this is going to be 2 to the 5th times 2 to the negative 4th plus 2 to the 0 power. And then you said that they already recognized 2 to the 0 was 1.
Right.
So having and this is where where you could also sneak in your PSA about you got to show your work. Is, do you see how simplified or how nice and neat your problem becomes if you rewrite it and if you're showing your work, right? And then again, so doing this 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, and then letting them do it, especially if this is just notes, letting them do it in marker. 2 over 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 plus, plus 1. Because we know this is 1. And they could cross it out. 2 plus 1 equals 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so the color coding, letting them have fun with the note taking, because you'll probably be guiding them through it anyway.
Right.
But when it comes to them actually showing their work, emphasizing the pencil and actually rewriting it to show their work step by step.
Okay.
I don't know. Some people are really turned on by the color pencils and pens. I am definitely one of those people. So that is one strategy.
Okay.
There's only one way. I mean, another way is to actually deconstruct one entire problem as a whole class and having different different groups answer different parts of the question. Okay. Like this group, I want you to focus on rewriting it, and then hand the problem over to the next group. Okay, so what do you do after this? I want you to simplify. Kind of breaking it up that way. Okay. That way, they all kind of get a chance to master at least one part of the problem, if not the entire problem, by the end of the lesson. All right. So cool. This is one of the big roadblocks. Is just kind of visualizing it. And I mean, this goes in the same vein. This follows the same vein of actually doing the pictorial. Okay. All right. So interventions. When would you find time to do this?
Stations. Okay. I have found that right now during our stations, would be a good time.
Okay.
I've at least tried a couple stations so far, and that's when I have found most students are comfortable with asking me to come help them, or we need help, and I find that it's something kind of basic.
Yeah.
But at least they get that one-on-one, and I go over to that group and kind of fine-tune what they didn't want to ask in open forum.
Yeah.
So that's the only time where I have found that the interventions can take place during a station.
Okay.
Honestly. Outside of that, I've asked them, like on their notes, they have that questions column to at least just jot down a question.
Yeah.
But I don't know why that's a challenge. They're reluctant to jot down their question in their mind. I don't ask them to, or I don't require them to write down their question and ask out loud. I just want you to write it down so it's there. So as I'm walking around, I see what your question is and it can get addressed.
Yeah.
But no, that's a challenge. Like the same kids that'll call me over during station time, that same question they're asking me could have been written in their notes, but they will not write. All of their notes are empty.
Really? So what? Yeah. What's their roadblock for that? Like, why? Have you asked?
Nope. I don't know.
Okay.
So I think at this point, what I'm going to have to do is maybe give a minute, like a minute and 20 seconds of pause time.
Okay.
To say, okay, we're going to pause right here. I'm going to set the timer for a minute and 20 seconds. I guess, I don't even know if that's too long, for everyone to create 2 questions. I don't care how minor it is. If it's, I don't get it, help, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to have to at least give them some time to stop and create a question.
That could be it. I mean, I could imagine, you know, in a very fast-paced class, feeling like it's much easier to just raise my hand and get my answers like on the spot. I would also suggest, well, maybe not limiting them to writing just questions. It could be an everybody writes of, you know, I want you to take a minute, 20 seconds, and I want you to write down any ahas that you have, like things that you discovered or you learned in this lesson, any questions, any concerns, or things you feel like you're really good at. Just, you know, giving, so that everybody's writing. Because if they don't have any questions, they don't have any questions. But opening it up.
During like everybody writes, that can't be a good time for them to write what they're really good at or what they kind of
like a quick
gelled with
summary. Yeah.
Okay.
Something that gelled, something that stuck out to them, something that, so it's a quick summary of what they just learned.
Okay.
And that could include any ahas, questions, concerns.
Now, let me ask you, on their notes, we do have a section at the bottom that says summary.
Yeah.
So I can use that as everybody writes.
Yeah.
And say, okay, now if you look at the bottom of your notes, minute 20 seconds, go ahead and summarize. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Part of it is, you know, they're still learning how to take notes. So maybe they just, I could totally see them not wanting to write the questions because they feel like they don't have time, or they just don't see the value in it because they don't think it's going to get answered soon enough for them. But just carving out that time, and then following up, and everybody writes with, okay, talk to your next door neighbor, share what you just wrote, and see if you have anything in common. And then
that's our turn and talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then following up with that with, okay, I'll take first 3 hands. What questions, comments, or concerns do you guys have about this past lesson? So it's a quick, you know, self-report, but it also keeps them engaged and it keeps the dialogue open.
Okay.
And I think you do a pretty good job at, you know, allowing students to share aloud.
Okay. Got it.
Cool. So quick question about stations. How's that been going? It's only day 4 of instruction, really. But
yeah, and actually the kids like it. I know I need to fine tune the stations as far as structure it better. But right now I want them to get in the habit of just understanding what the station's about and how the rotation happens.
Okay.
So like right now I'm just using like an envelope with the work inside and like directions. But I just want them to understand that they're timed, and that once time is up, we're going to go over it. Someone shares out. Okay. And then now pass the envelope to the next group, so forth. The kids like it.
What do they like
so
about
far
it?
it's working. I think what they like about it, we haven't actually talked about, tell me what you like about the stations. But when I say today we're going to do stations, they're like, oh, great. So I give them their time to work, to talk, and to do it together. And maybe they're looking forward to what's next in the next envelope when they get it.
Oh.
They all already know that all 3 envelopes have different assignments in it. What I have tried to do with the stations is, one will be like a review of what we learned last. So like with my 8th graders, one station is integer exponents. The next 2 stations are both scientific notation, except one is our AB, differentiated worksheet. But then the 3rd one is like the C. Or I'll go ahead and type up the extend the math out of here.
Yeah.
It depends what I'm structuring, but it's always like that, extend the math. So like for my 7th graders, I did the extend the math, and it actually was a good one for them for adding integers with different signs. Where is it? Here it is. It was a maze. So that was one of the stations.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, the kids were engaged. They at least tried. They didn't give up right away.
Yeah.
So that was one of the stations.
And it's the pre-AP, so it's the...
So I always make one of the stations a challenge one, whether it's the level C out of the differentiated or the extend the math out of here.
I like that.
And then I always do one that's like review from our last lesson, and then one that's where we're supposed to be, like right now.
Okay.
So that's going well. I just have to kind of fine tune it though a little bit more.
What do you mean fine tune?
As far as, I don't know. I would not want to use the envelopes.
Oh, what's wrong with
I mean, the envelopes are fine, actually. But what I have found is kind of a glitch. I don't want to make it a lot of just
paperwork.
Okay. So I've asked them to just turn in one per group. So whatever the assignment is, even if it's this extend the math, there's enough copies in here for all my classes, but I tell them, pull out a copy for all of you, but you're only turning in one. So that way they all can read their own copy instead of trying to read off of one copy, because I already found that that was an issue. Or even rotating was an issue. So I asked them to pull out a copy. Everyone has their own, but you're all working together, reading your own copy to create one that you're going to turn in.
Okay.
So I think I need to fine tune that. That's the only glitch where I have found. Just because then when it's time for me to collect it, when time's up, and we go over, okay, who would like to share? All right, now let me collect from that group. The other 2 or 3 students, they still have their original copy that they wrote, scribbled all over.
Yeah.
And they're turning in one to me, but they still have these extra papers.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I don't like. But
they could keep them as part of their notes, like staple them in.
Well, yeah, that's why I've required them to bring binders this year.
Yeah.
So that goes in behind their divider for activities. At least they can always refer back to what we were working on when we were learning integers or scientific notation. But in my opinion, it just causes a lot of clutter.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm just trying to figure out how to fine tune that.
So quick question about your collection process. So how do you identify whose paper to turn in or whose paper to collect? And then, well, let's start with that one.
I guess what I don't, it doesn't sound good, but I don't. So for example, this group, since they all have their copy, and as I'm walking group to group, I clearly see all 3 of them are working together.
Okay.
And I'm giving the dojo, so they want that. So they're all definitely giving their input. They're actually arguing over answers. I see it. So as far as like, they're being trustworthy. But when it's time to at least, okay, 2 more minutes, hopefully you have your one copy ready, your group name is on it, they all get it done. But then I did run into a group where there was like 2 questions that were not finished. And I said, okay, are you guys almost done with these last 2? Well, she's not going to answer it. I did all the other work.
That was my follow-up question.
So that's another glitch where some groups, it's just going to happen that way. Whereas majority, everyone's working because I'm walking and I'm, standing, listening. But then when I walk away, that could be that group where they're like, okay, she's gone. So you finished doing
the rest of it.
Yeah.
That was my follow-up question because I was curious. It kind of goes back to something we talked about way at the beginning of last year. Like, how do we know all students are getting practice with all the problems, right? In my class, whenever I did centers work, I would have them do the same exact work. If it wasn't a game or anything like that, it was an actual worksheet or problems that they had to do. Okay. I would say, everybody does the work. I will come around and choose which paper to take.
Okay.
So it'll still, force the kids to work together. And in some cases, you might still get the student who is copying off of somebody else's paper. But it was kind of like it's better than not having anything written down on their page, especially during the centers time, because the whole point is, we're giving them an opportunity to collaborate and learn from their peers.
Right.
So if right now all they're doing is copying it down, then they're copying it down.
Yeah.
But, if you are in control of which paper to take, and the grade will affect all of you.
Yeah. Okay.
You're actually having the students kind of hold each other accountable.
Got
it's like, get this down.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna try that one.
Yeah.
So that will definitely take care of the group work itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when you choose, when you choose like that one paper,
Yeah.
Okay, after you clearly stated what you're going to do, and let's just say this group here, you're choosing that one.
Yep.
At the end of class, are you still collecting all anyway?
No.
So you choose that one, and what happens to those other 2 papers that you didn't?
I actually would have them staple it into the notebooks.
Okay.
Yeah, as notes.
Got it. Okay.
And then have them circle whose paper it belongs to. So all 3 names or all 4 names go on the top of the paper, circle who it actually belongs to. So at the end, I could give it back to them. Okay. And they'll get credit, teacher's choice credit for participation in class, or turn it into an assessment. I just want to check this one problem. And if you guys all don't have it, or this paper doesn't have it, you all get zeros.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah.
You should have used your time wisely.
Got it.
Type of thing.
Okay.
It really helps with, I always found that always helped with classroom management.
Yeah.
Because the kids are like, especially if you have heterogeneous groups.
Yeah.
The high flying kids would be like, get this down now.
Yeah.
And the kids who are kind of slacking, like, let me copy off of you.
That's true.
So at least they're getting it.
Okay.
And you know who's going to be copying for the most part.
Right.
So, all right. So then looking forward to next week, let's actually start talking about the direct instruction for one of the lessons. Because as I mentioned last time we met, I'm going to be coming around with video, with a video camera. So is there a particular grade level or particular lesson that you really want to get videotaped? Well, for next week, I will say 7th. Okay.
Because I think I'm going to kind of close out
that.
Getting familiar with this. I didn't get a chance to get through that yet.
Okay.
Where will we be? So with me being out 2 days, we're going to subtract tomorrow, Friday. And then, we're going to get into multiplying integers.
Fun.
Multiplying, dividing. All right.
That's actually not bad.
No, it's not.
Triangle.
It's is that the triangle with like the face?
Is it?
Or it's not a face, but I think you got positive, negative, or something. Or is it 2 positives and a negative?
Yes. Oh no, 2 negatives and a positive.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of cover up one, right?
Yep.
Negative.
Well, if you do this, it'll be that.
Yeah.
And if it'll be this, it'll be that.
Okay. I would say 7th grade.
Okay.
And next week, we're still going to be doing integers, whether it's multiplying, dividing, applying. Yeah, more than likely, depending on if it's early part of the week, we will be multiplying. Dividing.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So let's look at one of those lessons.
Okay.
2.1, multiplying integers. So if this is our explore activity, Henry made 3 withdrawals.
Oh, I have a question too. I've always wondered this ever since last year.
Yeah.
Before you go into that, as far as the student interactive online, that covers these 2 pages.
Yeah.
I never know. Am I supposed to use that with the kids or not? That's always been a big question mark.
I wouldn't.
Okay.
Unless it was a student or a group of students who were struggling.
All right. Because I didn't know. I know it's been used, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I use it. So I used it as a front load.
Yeah.
You know, before we would go through our notes, we would talk, do all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Then in the middle, I would front load them. Then after that little video, then I don't tell them it's in their Go Math book, but I tell them to pull out their Go Math book.
Oh.
And now you're going to work as a group on page 37 and 38. Then as I walk around, I hear some kids say, hey, this is what we just did. But that's fine because at least they know how to answer it because we walked through it together as a class and everyone collaborated. But in my mind, I've always said, am I supposed to show that? Or am I not? I don't know. Especially if I use it as a front load.
Yeah. You know what? So that was just a preference. I prefer not to use the videos.
Okay.
However, the way that you described it, how did it work for you? Like, was it helpful?
To me, it is.
Okay.
In order for us to complete these pages in the Go Math book in general, if we're at least going through the curriculum, at least using the guided practice, the independent, I found that the video works well with them.
Okay.
Before doing this, and I don't even tell them it's in here. Now, after a while, they should catch on, but I don't even tell them. So after we finish the video, then I'll say, okay, turn the page, pull out your Go Math books. Let's turn to page 37. Now you're going to work within your group together. You're going to complete 37, 38. And some kids don't say anything. They're working, no questions. And others are like, we just did this. Oh,
They're
okay.
making the connection.
Yeah, but it's fine. At least they know how to answer it.
Yeah.
You know, and then we come back together and then we'll do a couple problems on the guided and then I'll let them go on their own. Depending on time, we at least hit maybe 1 or 2. But what I usually do when it's predominantly word problems like this, I just create one of these graphic organizers.
Yeah.
And give it to them.
So what are the kids doing during the video?
They're all like raising their hand, or they're all not raising their hand like that, but it pauses. Like here it asks.
Oh, okay.
So they all will either yell out, and that's when I allow them to just blurt it out. Some people say, oh, -2. No, it's not. And someone will raise their hand. So we just kind of have fun with it. And then I'll ask them, is it +2? Yes. And I hit +2.
Yeah.
And then we check.
Okay.
And I hit that little check. But that's our time together where we just kind of, it's not so much structure as far as raise your hand. If someone knows the answer, they could just say it out.
They could say it out loud. And I could see using it. I would still say maybe using it after. Because you've already introduced, by this point, adding and subtracting integers, right?
Yes.
So multiplying integers, repeated addition, giving them, this is what we did the last time we were together. So giving them just this problem to do, and then this problem to do, or this problem to do on their own or with their groups, and then playing the video.
Okay.
And then, but again, not showing them it's in the book.
Yeah, yeah.
So they actually see it 3 times.
Right.
So they'll see this without the scaffolding, then they'll see the video and then go through it. Pause the video and then give them another problem, play the video, they'll go through this. Okay. And then after, debriefing, seeing if there's any questions or anything like that, saying, okay, go ahead and do page 37 and 38. So it's the same exact problem, 3 times in 3 different modes.
Okay.
Is that overkill, you think? Or is that effective use of time?
It's kind of hard to say, but I will say how it's been working, how we've been doing it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's been working as far as completing this.
Yeah.
I won't say it's the key to the whole thing.
Completion is fine, but are they able to apply it to the word problems afterwards, like in the independent practice?
Now, what I can say, they can apply it to the computational.
The algorithm?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the most part. When it comes to...
So like question number 14.
Honestly, I will say I don't want to say no and I don't want to say yes, because when it comes to the word problems, I feel like they just freeze anyway, no matter what. So that's why I just take all the word problems and put them on a graphic organizer. Now, as they go through the steps, they're fine with it.
Yeah.
But if I just give them a word problem at the beginning like this, not a good choice from what I've seen.
Okay.
But I think after we finish this whole section, after we've kind of played around, maybe I've given you a graphic organizer, now I present you with a word problem by itself as like an exit ticket, then they're ready.
Okay, cool. So, I am going to defer to you. I will be the observer.
So we'll see. But maybe I don't know if it's a good idea, but maybe I could at least try it and you can kind of see how it's done with the video.
Okay.
Maybe before you videotape. I don't know.
Well, okay, so there's multiplying integers and then there's dividing integers. So I could come in both days.
Okay.
Maybe. And we could compare notes.
Now, what I have found in the past with dividing, we never really spend too much time on the dividing, because since it's the same rules, and I know it's probably bad, since it's the same rules, we just kind of carry it over. But in general, I just hate to, once I see that they've got it, once I see that they get it with the multiplying and they know the rule, and I could just sit there and check real quick, whiteboard check, and I see that they've got it, I hate to mess them up. That's why I'm like, all right, with dividing integers, we just use the same rules, because I hate to go through with, okay, let's get the counters. Now let's see if we can divide into, that's where I've been with it. I'm like, oh, I hate to lose them because they've got this like down pat.
Yes. Yes and no.
I know.
Because if they could show their work and they could show what we really want, what we're really aiming for when we're saying show your work is show your thinking on paper.
Right.
If they could show it in 2 different ways, then I'm good.
Okay.
But if they're still trying to do mental math and they're getting it wrong and they're just writing random numbers on a piece of paper, then I would go back to, like, we're going to do it step by step, and I want to see every single step.
Okay.
Yeah. And we already talked about the grade level response, like what that would look like. So 2 ways. The algorithm has to be one of them, right? And then if they have to draw pictures, if they have to actually rewrite the problem as repeated addition or anything like that, then that could be their second.
Oh, so it can be a visual or an algorithm?
So the algorithm in the sense that if they could write out the problem and answer it, so 3 times -2 is -6, like they just write it out. Like that's it, right?
Okay.
I would say they need a second to prove that they actually know the concept.
Okay.
So they could draw a picture, or they could do another, so multiplying integers, repeated addition. If it was dividing integers, they could do repeated subtraction.
Or kind of like another method.
Yeah, another method.
Now, what about explanation? Is that a category, or is that part of one of
showing
these?
Their thinking?
Yeah.
An explanation, written explanation. Why is that? So the way that you did it here, I liked that.
Okay.
So, like, why do they know it's going to be a negative?
All right. That way I can continue if that works.
And you
Okay.
could give them options. You just have the students, share how they did it. So
Okay.
if a student, again, jumps straight to the algorithm, all right, who can show me a different way? Who can show me a third way? If there are 3 or 4 different ways. And that goes to mathematical practice. I think 1 is persisting through the problem, but also modeling in different ways.
Okay.
Hi.
Who's on?
Huh?
Who's that?
I'm recording it.
Oh. Okay.
See what questions? What was that?
No, Jay?
No,
Do we know who the math teacher is in Hardy Grove?
not yet. We
They
just
don't have one, or-
interviewed someone. They have a long-term sub right now.
I know what that feels.
What questions?
Sucks.
What questions did you ask the check students? Okay, so what are some questions you would ask? So if you were introducing this problem, or actually, let's go to one of the guided practice problems. Let's say number 13. What would you ask
Oh, that's right.
to kind of scaffold students?
For one, I would ask to see if they could pick up on the keywords
Okay.
to help them understand if it's going to be like positive or negative. We would then focus in on what they're supposed to look for. In other words, kind of like, what is it that you need to know? What are you solving for?
Okay. Anything else?
Uh,
I would actually go into process at this point. So once
Yeah.
you kind of know the lay of the land with the question,
mm-hmm.
So where do I start?
Okay.
Just kind of throw it out there. So what do you write on the board? So have them narrate to you what you should be writing on the board.
Okay.
ELA. Do you know what that means?
Mike,
Because I went to
No.
Blake's and the one up here, so the only other option was
Black?
black. It's the only other option.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
So where do I start? So what would your expectation be? So where should they tell you to start? Start at 0 and move 5 units.
So for number 13, where would I expect for them to start?
Oh, this one, 13. Yeah, so what do I write on the board?
So Flora made 7 withdrawals of $75 from what was the overall change in her account. We at least would want to track the fact that she made $75 withdrawals each time, 7 times. So
They should tell you to write what on the board?
negative 75, probably 7 times.
Okay.
And then I think the students that kind of got it, they'll tell me that's just 7 times negative 75.
That's what we all hope.
Yeah,
that
depending
they
on what
say.
class. But
Yeah.
so maybe what I would already have posted is 2 pathways.
Yep. Method 1.
Yeah, method 1, method
Method
2.
two.
So I know out the door,
Yep.
method 1 would be negative 75 7
7
times.
times.
And then I can say, okay, is there a second method? Is there a different way, easier way, simpler way?
Yeah. Or
And just
who knows another way, right?
Mhm.
Just leaving it really open.
Okay.
And then, yeah, you would get to the answer 525. And then at that point, turn and talk to your neighbor. Which method is more efficient? Which
Okay.
method do you feel more comfortable with? Like, there's a whole bunch of different questions.
Okay.
And then have them, cold call, have them share out what they talked to their neighbor about. That way you could kind of get a hot read on where everybody is in the classroom.
Okay.
So that when we get to the independent practice, if there's time in class to start doing independent practice, because they're all word problems, right? The students who are like, well, I would do method 1 because it's more familiar to me. Like,
Okay.
those would be the students that I would go to first.
Right.
And be like, come on,
Yeah.
do the multiplication type of thing. Cool. And then I think the questions, they kind of already identify the levels. Right?
Here. Oh, you're talking
Yeah.
about here for, yeah.
Yeah. So for any additional problems like your benchmark class, if they're picking it up really fast, I would go to a level 2. Say,
Okay.
cool, you got that first question correct. Let's see if you can do this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Now, I guess, would it be an okay practice, even after we go through the whole lesson and get to the independent and I see it's majority word problems, maybe starting out right now till maybe, say, intercession, use graphic organizers, because I honestly don't mind typing it on here, because I have the template. I just have to change the word problem itself.
Yeah.
Now, maybe after intercession, and I just make that clearly stated to the kids, like, hey, after November 10th, whatever date it is, from now on, after that, you will have to strictly go through your word problems, look for what you know, what you need to know, which is going to come the same questions from here. You're going to have to go through there and take a highlighter or circle those things.
Yep, which is
Okay.
why it would be really important to start every single word problem or have the same sequence of questioning for every single word problem, because then it gets ingrained with them, ingrained in their thinking. And then after November, having a anchor chart so that they could start producing the same graphic organizer on their own paper. And then probably by February, no more anchor chart.
Yeah.
No more graphic organizers.
Right,
They should be just automatically putting it on their own paper.
Okay.
Yeah, but still keeping, you know, when you're modeling in front of the class, still using the same sequence.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That actually sounds really good. Like doing that gradual release.
Yeah, because that'd make things easy for me.
Yeah.
But they should get to that point where they need to be able to read a word problem and know exactly what to do.
Yeah. And for our 8th graders, just emphasizing, if, you know, you guys are not if, you are going to high school next year.
Yeah.
Your teachers will not give you graphic organizers. They will not be as kind as Miss Smith. So get used to it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And so just, you know, it's never too early to start telling them you're going to high school and you're going to college after high school. You're not going to have all of this.
Yeah.
Like we are babying you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Let me see. What else has